Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to part 2 of the Grigsby's War in the West tutorial. So, this is a different scenario, just to show off different concepts of how the game works. So this is the Bullshit of the Rhine scenario, which is a very interesting one. It's basically one of the last offensives by the Third Reich and by the Wehrmacht. So, the situation here is that the Allies have been advancing through France, though they have come to something of a wall, really. That being, obviously, the West Wall to the south, and the German forces to the north. So, what I'm keen to show off here in this scenario is basically tying together the elements of air and then into the ground and then also into logistics to a different degree. So this may be a very complex tutorial. I'm going to try and make it very, very simple. Right, we begin in the air planning phase as per usual. So notice that we do have these preset doctrines already. So we have the reconnaissance and we have the ground attack on the air bases here, and the reconnaissance and ground attack on the base here, and then over here as well. So this is what you can achieve as well. So you can focus very much so on specific targets if you'd like. So over here then we have 126 allied aircraft, 146 and 211 aircraft over here. Though notice the fact that we do not have anything in the way of ground support for the Axis forces on the ground. Now, if we were to consult our order of battle over here, you can see we have a great many planes, though how many will be ready at the moment and will be effective is a different story. So if we look for... I'm looking for the Luftwaffe command in the area. I suppose I can go over here and Okay. There we go. Okay, hell. Righto. So in terms of numbers, not too particularly many. Here we go. Now we do have a considerable amount of aircraft, I suppose, for this campaign. Though what I'm going to show you guys is how to actually consult the weather. So what we want to do then is we're going to go to info screen, and we want to select over here, so show weather. Okay. So this is something I went over before, I do believe. We have the weather on the ground at the moment, so we can see here that we have light snow. Obviously we have heavier snows over to the east. Thankfully we do not have heavy snow as of this moment in time. The weather in the air is cold, however there is no rain, there is no snowfall, so we do have okay weather. It's not the best weather, but it's okay, we can manage this for the time being. The machines can take it. So, if we consult the next turn, so December 23rd, this is what we're expecting the week following, we can see the weather will remain much the same on the ground, while in the air we have a front of snowfall coming in. So that will definitely impact on things. It will definitely have an impact. So if we take a look at the actual doctrines over here, so we can see here they're set to fly in poor weather, which is fine enough. We have a good considerable amount of aircraft assigned to this mission. So what we're going to do then is we're going to allow this to go ahead, and we're going to have the Luftwaffe hopefully pound these airfields into submission. So we'll go ahead, execute the air directive. Now this is an example of a more advanced scenario. It's a very fun scenario. Okay, our losses are up there. Quite a few in air combat. The Allies have lost about 6 planes on the ground so far. Hopefully can increase that. Ultimately, we need to knock out those air bases. Okay, so we lost more aircraft than we took out, but that's fine. Okay, so moving on to the ground phase. Now this is a phase that we haven't touched upon really much yet. What we need to establish here then is the command hierarchy. So you can see here that we have the 15th Army. We have Army Group B here, which is in command of the 15th. The 15th and the 7th. If we go to the order of battle, we can see this quite easily. Okay. So we have OB West under the command of Feldmarschall von Rundstadt. And we have Army Group B here. So under Army Group B, we have 7th Army, 15th Army, 5th Panzer, and the 6th SS Panzer. Under Army Group G, we have the 1st and 19th. Army Group H, we have the 25th, the 1st Volksjäger Army, and then the forces in Holland. Only about 20,000 men here, not very many. So, that's the command hierarchy. Now moving down from the overall command hierarchy, we can go down to the lower level of the corps command. and this is where we can go over our first concept in terms of ground command. So basically, we have the core over here. This core has assigned to it howitzers, some infantry, some AA. Now, how support works, basically within War in the, basically within War in the West and War in the East, it's much the same. You can have support units assigned to a core command, and if you are on the offensive, and you have your core command within about 3 hexes, then the support elements from the core command have a very good chance of helping out, so you can have artillery helping out with the attack over here. If you have that unit, that support element, move directly into a division or brigade, that division or brigade will benefit directly from that support. It will increase in strength. However, it will only be able to help out that one division. It will not be able to help out the other divisions at the same time or in multiple attacks. Unless that division or brigade is in multiple attacks itself, which is not very likely due to the amount of resources it needs. So, that's support explained to a degree. So obviously, artillery is very good. Other elements can be very good. Engineers give bonuses to attacking across, basically at cities, that sort of thing. So now I want to go over how you move units. That's quickly explained with this support. We'll show this off later on. So let's find a division. Okay, so we have the 553rd Volksgrenadier Division, part of the 1st Army, down here. So now, how would we want to move these troops to the front? We have a few options. I can move them directly, using the move mode over here. And you can see, basically, they have 3 combat value and 11 movement points. Now, we can see the numbers here by going over to preferences. So I have unit value display type at numeral. We're going to change that back to name just for the moment in time. So you can see here, 553rd Volksgrenadier. It's totally up to you. We'll have it on numeral for the moment in time so we can see what's going on. So due to the poor weather, it is a little bit more costly to move. Not too much so. We can definitely see that this is represented. So, we can move up here. If we take a look at the allied strength, we can see that we have a fair amount of allies in this area over here. Allied forces, American forces basically. These American forces here, you can tell by the slightly green division card, or division ship. We have British forces over here, which are the slightly darker. French forces down here to the south. 3 French armoured divisions. Okay. Now, the other option, besides just moving them straight away like this, which does use their own supplies. Basically, will use their supplies, and that's not a good thing. You want them to use those supplies in combat, not just for moving. So the second option here is a rail mode. So the numbers here on the map indicate different things. So what this indicates is that this rail depot can handle about 10,000 tons of freight. And what that translates into is something to logistics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition into logistics. So I'm going to press the N key, so that's N. Now N, just to go over this, we're just going to find the hotkey so I can show you guys and you can see properly. My accent may not make this easy. So there we go, N. Toggle logistics info on and off. Now, we can take a look at the logistics network of the Third Reich's Wehrmacht over here. So, okay, we can see here the colour of the rail represents a very specific number. So, the Axis rail usage over here is 0 for the first time. The reason for this is, on the first turn there is no logistics phase, as obviously the turn has just begun. But after this, then logistics will start to move. Now, light green indicates a low level of usage, so basically you have different bands. At 0 to 4999, then there is no supply movement penalty. After that, as it starts to encroach into the 10,000, you'll have a small penalty of maybe 1. Above that, into 20, you'll have 2, above that 3, above that 4, above that 5, above that 6. 6 being the maximum penalty. They are different colours, so you go from light green, well, from this colour of green to a darker green, to a yellow, to an orange, and then to a red. Red is something you want to avoid. The reason for that is basically how it works with the movement of logistics is, we have all of this freight capacity during this turn. If I move my troops using the rail line, that basically will subtract that capacity from the rail network. So just going to bring that back up here. Okay. So we'll take the city of Frankfurt, for example. If I was to move units through via rail, that would subtract the freight capacity of Frankfurt. So that means that, let's take this division for example, so we can see here this division weighs about 1,880 tons. We'll just call it tonnage just for, well, just call it freight. It's going to use that much freight. So you could subtract that from the amount that Frankfurt could move within that turn. So instead of moving 5,000, should we call it 5? No, we'll call it 50,000 tons. So instead of being able to move 50,000 tons of freight, it could move a little bit less. Basically, troop movement comes before the supply phase, so before the movement of freight. So that's something to bear in mind. So by moving these forces, it may be very quick, it may be very expedient for us to do so in a timely fashion. However, it will eat into your supply phase. So you do need to balance these out. What is more important, having that one force at the front, or having supplies move more efficiently and smoother, so then the vast majority of the forces benefit. Though there's always benefits and negatives to everything. So, let's go about by moving. So we've decided here that it's not quite worth moving via rail, though we can go into reasons why. And we might have a reason to move via rail here. So these triangles here, these upside down triangles, represent depots. And the numbers here represent their priority. So you can see here that supplies are going to move to this depot with the highest priority and this depot with the highest priority. So most of the supply will go to this area, ammunition and fuel. Now, to touch upon actual freight and supply and the difference between them, I'm just going to go over here. So basically, we have fuel stores, we have oil stores and pool, we have supply stores, and we have resource stores. Now, when I talk about freight, freight is a combination of all of them. That's all three combined, and it's known as freight. When freight arrives at a depot, and then arrives at the relevant corps headquarters, or the actual unit nearby, or army headquarters, either or theatre headquarters, you basically will have that headquarters break it down into what it needs. So 1 ton of freight can be 1 ton of supply, or it could be 1 ton of fuel, or it could be 1 ton of ammunition, whatever the unit decides it needs to be. So basically, if you have 50,000 tons of freight, you could have about 25,000 tons of fuel, you could have 25,000 tons of ammunition, for example. That is how it breaks down. However, you need to have that in your stores. So if we were to use 50,000 tons of fuel, then that would take 50,000 tons of fuel from here. If we would take 50,000 tons of supply, that would come from here. Obviously, there are different penalties, and there's a different amount of availability to certain resources. I mean, the thing is, with fuel, we're not going to need much fuel in an infantry division. So an infantry division fuel need is very low, a maximum of 23 tons. While over here, in the 12th SS Panzer Division, part of the 1st SS Panzer Corps, our fuel need is significantly higher. So you're not going to be using 50,000 tons of fuel at once, but obviously you want your armoured forces on absolutely highest priority to receive that fuel and receive that supply, because these are your premier forces. So that's freight explained to a degree. We'll go into it in a greater fashion in the future. But let's explain this a little bit more then, shall we? Basically, you have supply, resources and freight, basically everything like that, produced in certain locations. So you'll have them produced over here, so this is a national source, and over here at Frankfurt too. And yep, obviously if Berlin was in the scenario, you would have that too. So, Hamburg is another supply source. So what I want to do then is I want to go over here to the event log. Now the event log, there's a hell of a lot here, but what we're going to do is we're going to deselect all of them, and we're going to go to supply. Well, actually, I will have to do that in the following phase, as we don't have it generated for the time being. So we'll do that in the following phase. Obviously, with this being the first turn, there's nothing generated in terms of that. So yes, okay. So due to the fact that we have low priority over here, doesn't particularly matter about the rail usage, or does it? Because obviously, moving that unit via rail, you're going to use up valuable freight capacity. And with this being a lower priority depot, do you really want to be using more freight capacity when it's going to be receiving a lot less anyway, for making things even harder? So we're not going to do that. I'm going to move this unit via its home steam. So we can see here that we have the West Wall Fortified Zone, the 17th SS Panzergrenadier Division. Over here we have the 36th Volksgrenadier Division. So looking at the lowest level, is probably what's going to help us. I think perhaps move down here. Though the forces down here could do with reinforcement, considering that we have a brigade here, and then obviously a brigade here, so not even divisional strength. So we'll have this force transferred down here. So what I can do is I can press B. Now by pressing B, we'll go over here to the preference, sorry, to the hotkey so I can show you. So, B, build up / breakdown of units. Now this force over here, I can build up or break down, and form them into 3 regiments rather than 1 division. Sorry, brigades. So basically, you can spread forces out as you'd like. Obviously, you have less forces in that area, and they will be easy to break, but you can spread your numbers out. So what we're going to do here then is we're going to have them move over here. Now, something to note about breaking forces up is if they're assigned to a different command, then they will not be able to be combined. You have to have them all assigned to the same command. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have them switch over command to the 14th, I believe that's 14th SS Corps. So let's do that. So we're going to right click on this. We're going to go over here to headquarters. We're going to go to the 14th SS Corps, have them reassigned. There we go. 14th SS Corps. Okay. 14th SS Corps. Awesome. So we have those forces reassigned for the time being. Now, with supplier priority, what I was talking about, we need to understand how to assign supply priority. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at Frankfurt. So you can see that supply is not shown. We can see how much is in there, but we can't see how to change it. So what we need to do then is basically find a depot. So we'll go with Koblenz over here, for example. So we can see here that in the top we have priority. The reason why we do not have priority over here is because Frankfurt is a production zone, I suppose you could call it. It's a national production zone of supplies and everything like that. So what we're going to do is we can go to Koblenz, and I could increase the priority to 3. I could lower it down to 0 if I so wished. And we can see that represented on the map. So what we're going to do is we're going to have that at 2 again. So keep it down here at 2. And what we can do over here then is we can start to assess the logistical network and decide really where do we want things. Something to note though is the fact that let's take Onnersbruck for example. So we have 1 rail yard here, but we have a number of connections. So if I go over to, let's see, this one over here. Okay, so you can see the relevant amount of capacity. The more, let's find a relevant city. So we'll go back once, we'll go to Essen for example here. So, right, rail yards. So you can see the number of rail yards here. That directly impacts upon how much freight can be handled by that city, or settlement, etc, etc. So, the more rail yard connections you have, the better. So you want to prioritize these cities, basically. If you keep hold of them, you can do fairly well. So we can click over here, and we can see how many losses we took. So a fair amount of losses. Fair amount. Okay. Bring that back up. Right down. So I've gone through the supply priority, how to assign it. Now let's go through how to assign it to the actual unit. So what you need to do then to be able to assign priority is to go and press the N key. So this brings up the logistics mode. And let's, for example, go over here then to the Panzers. So we're going to go to the Corps. And we can see here that the priority is at level 4. So we're going to keep it at level 4. Whoops, I'm going to have that at level 4. There we go. You can see that represented over here too. So we have this soft factor. This is what's going to be shown on the actual ships themselves. So at the moment, none. So morale, we can see here that morale in the Panzers is higher, the SS Panzer divisions is higher, but the general standard of morale is fairly low, it's fairly mediocre. Things aren't going too well. Experience is not too bad. Obviously it's higher in the Panzer divisions because these are the Klak men, or at least the men who have been fighting a lot. Supplies, you can see here that priority, well, supplies in this Panzer Grenadier division is lower. However, supplies in the SS Panzers is pretty good, though not so much in this one. Fuel, so we can see here that the division here in the middle has a lot of fuel. These divisions not too much, but they have enough. Ammunition, so we can see here that it has a lot of fuel, but it has a low amount of ammunition. And there we go, so we can see what we have attached. There we go. That basically gives you an idea of like how many forces are attached to that one force, so support or obviously divisions. Which is something I do need to bring up, so what we're going to do is going to look over here. So this over here, so the 1311, basically what that represents is how many divisions that command can look after. So he has 13 command points worth assigned to him, though he can only command 11. So what we're going to do then is we're going to see what we have assigned. So what do we have attached? So assigned we have some Volksgrenadier divisions, 3rd Volksgrenadier division, obviously the Panzer divisions. We also have a Panzer brigade. So if we take a look at the Volksgrenadier division. Okay, so do we want to have this assigned, or would we be better off moving something else out? I think we'd be better moving something else out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 12th Volksgrenadier division, which is over here. So we're going to have that reassigned. So we'll press G, and this will have it automatically reassigned to the closest headquarters in the area. So that is G. We'll go over that. There you go, auto-assigned to nearest applicable HQ. Okay. You can see here that this is going to be better commanded now. Things are going to flow more smoothly. So, we've gone over the rail movement, we've gone over the normal movement, i.e. marching. I suppose we can move on to combat to a degree. We're going over some elements of logistics, so I will expand upon that in the future. So let's see here then. We're going to go into combat then. So what we want to look for first of all is the fort levels. So we can see here that we have obviously our west wall, which is fairly well defended. Level 3 fortifications more or less throughout. We can see here that the allies have some light fortifications, just basically entrenchments, probably like little trenches, that sort of thing. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, we can also access the logistics mode over here too. What we want to look for as well as air reconnaissance levels. So you can see here the brighter the colour indicates a higher level of reconnaissance. So you can see here that's 55, 62, 100. So over here we have a very good idea of what we're facing, while the rest we do not. So basically, the higher the amount of reconnaissance that you have in an area is fairly critical, really. The higher level of reconnaissance, the better your forces will perform, the better their combat value will be in the battle, because obviously they know where the enemy is, they know what they're facing, and they can deal with that. Obviously, once they do not know what they're facing, they don't know where the enemy positions are, they're going to find it significantly harder, and the battle's going to go significantly slower. So you can see here, going through the different modes. So that shows you the air reconnaissance. This one, I believe, shows you the rail sectors. I can't quite remember which this map mode shows. I apologise. It seems to show cities or locations with factories, basically. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that shows air reconnaissance levels. It shows you the places with industry and factories, that sort of thing. Well, we'll go over that one in the future. I'm not a perfect expert, but I can get you guys through this game. Okay, so another element of logistics I want to go over is the air transport. So at the moment we have this set to unit. What I want to do then is I want to click that again and have it changed to freight. Now, what this is going to allow us to do is have freight move via air. So what I can do is I can shift click. Oh no, okay, so I don't have any transport aircraft available for this time being. What we'd do then is we'd look for the amount of aircraft we have, so aircraft type, so transports. Okay, so we have a few transports over here in Cologne. Okay. Their mission setting is rest, okay. I'm going to have them on day. Have them on day. Right, okay, they might be able to fly out for us. So we have them over here. Let's see if we can get them moving. So we're going to click this. Freight. Let's see if we can get this out there. Okay, so, yep, we've changed that. So what we can do then is we can shift right-click. So by shift right-clicking, I can see what we have over here. So this shows you all the units available for this mission. Basically, fighters will escort, fighter bombers will escort 2 aircraft that have a certain, like, load capacity. I mean, it will help them to carry things. So what I want to do then is, let's see. Right, so we have 83 fighters, 48 transport aircraft, single mission, multiple missions. Single mission is they will fly at once, multiple missions is they will keep flying out. So what we'll go for is the multiple missions. Though I can't target individually, so we'll leave this here for the time being, but this is basically how you would go through it. So we'll do that at some point in the future. So, let's see. Fortifications, reconnaissance levels. So we can see here, we have good reconnaissance over here, though we can't beat our way through here. If we were to consult the victory location, so you can see here that we need to take Baston. Baston, I'd imagine I have a target over here at Antwerp, we'll just pretend I do. But this counts as our victory location over here, so we'll try to take Baston. Okay. So you can see why we'd aim for Baston. So we have a regiment over here, or brigade, sorry. We have 2 brigades over here, so there's only a few thousand men. We have a brigade of infantry and a armoured brigade. A brigade behind it. 2 brigades and potentially something else that is British. Brigade. Been a headquarters through here. So, what we're going to do then is we're going to launch combat. Ooh, how do we want to do this? Something that we do have to bear in mind with combat and the land phase is basically, no matter what, there is a maximum stacking of 3 units on a single hex. That could be 3 divisions. In the one in the east, it can be 3 corps, which is a considerable amount of men. But that is something related to one in the east, it's not relevant in one in the west. But basically, you can have either 3 divisions, or you could have 2 divisions and a brigade, you could have 1 division and 2 brigades, you could have 3 brigades and no divisions. Just whatever it is, it can only have 3 units in that one area. So what we're going to do then is we're going to launch an attack over here. I need this to work, so we're going to have to put a lot of resources into this. Though, it's not too good. It's not too good. So what we can do is we can consult the terrain over here. As we can see, we have light woods, but we have good roads over here in Luxembourg. So we have rough terrain. We have light woods, though there's a river over here. Rivers are not good. Try to avoid rivers. It will not help you out. Though for its attack over here, the river... Well, we still have a river line here. Okay. So this is something that we need to bear in mind. Which is the hotkey to remove units? Let's see. I forget which one it is now. Ah, there we go, T. Okay, press T, so we can see the map clearly now. So you can see here that there is a river line here. So what we want to do then is focus our attack over here, at Claveau. And at least by doing that, we can avoid the river crossing penalties. But first of all, we're going to assess our positions down here and try to hold out. So we have a couple men here. We're going to pull back these divisions. We're going to pull back this to the rail line. And then again. Okay, so let's assess our fort positions. Yeah, so we're going to abandon this. I mean, it is a shame, but there's nothing worth holding here. That, and it puts us in a very bad position. I'd rather pull back to a defensive line and use the forces that we have available to their best. Okay. So, we have these forces spread out over here, so what we're going to do is we're going to send those forces up there. I'm going to have this division pull back to here. That can reinforce. This division can move here. This division can move back. Press space to skip the movement so it moves faster. There we go. So you can see here that we've abandoned this and we moved these units here. So we have the river line over here. It's a major river. And that's going to really help us out quite considerably. It's always good to be aware of your position. So we did abandon the mountain positions over here. But honestly, I'm not adverse to that. I'd rather abandon it. I mean, we do abandon the city of Colmar, which is a nice city, though there's nothing really very important or worth holding on to, so we're going to abandon that for the time being. Okay. So we've done that. We've seen how to move units via their own march in Steam. So let's go for an attack. I know I keep talking about it, but we'll go for it. Okay, so we have the 352nd Volksgrenadier Division here. We have different elements here, so you have different forces under different commands. So what we're going to do then is we're going to go over here. We're going to find your headquarters. Your headquarters is a little bit far away. So what we're going to do is we're going to move that up. We're going to move it up over here. Whoops. It's in fact over here. Okay. Now, you have different buttons here. So you have ready, you have refit, and you have reserve. Basically, ready is they will just fight if they're attacked, or they will attack when ordered. They won't do anything else. Refit is basically where they will try to avoid fighting. They're not going to join in any combat. They're not really going to respond very well to being attacked. They'll still fight, but they will not fight very well. Well, no, they will still fight. Sorry, that's wrong on my part. They'll still fight as normal, but basically they're higher on the priority for replacements. And then reserve is where they will join in attacks close by. There's a chance that they will join an attack close by. So this being artillery, they will be able to join in the attack with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to move up. Well, we're going to keep this here and have that. Okay. There we go. So your headquarters is here. You have another division under your command. So what we're going to do then is we are going to launch our attack then. So we have the forces here. The 352nd and the 5th Volksgrenadier would not be able to break through that. The reason is they have 13 defensive combat value. So what we're going to do is we're going to take something over here. We're going to have the 560th Volksgrenadier Division help us out. So we can shift click over here. And then I can click to remove the ones I do not want. So we'll have their 560th. There we go. So these forces are set to reserve, so they may in fact be able to join us. I can have them selected, but it won't do anything because they're not able to attack. So what I'm doing here then is I have these forces selected, so I'm just going to get rid of these other ones. Now, if I was to right-click here, they would conduct a hasty attack. A hasty attack is basically a rushed attack. It's not going to do very well. It's not very good. It's something you want to try to avoid, really. It's good if you know you're going to be able to win easily. It saves you some movement value points, and they're not going to be fighting too hard. But what we're going to do is we're going to hold down Shift. And by holding Shift, what that does is that allows us to have a planned attack, which uses more movement value. So your forces will probably not be able to move much further or much after, but there's a much greater chance of them fighting and being victorious. So we're going to go for a planned attack. So we're going to right-click. So you can see here that the 408th Volksgrenadier Division is, the battalion with the artillery. Yep, there we go. And so we're going to pause here. So we can see here the combat value. There we go. So you can see theirs was initially 221. You can see it was rounded down. There's different factors in that. You can turn up the detail and you'll be able to see. But you can see here that we had 6 combat value added by the artillery. We had 10 by the engineers. You can see here the amount of men that we lost, artillery that we lost, armoured fighting vehicles that we lost, their losses. Okay, so you can also see that their fortification was reduced. Okay. There we go. There's a lot of different things that you can find out from this, if you put the detail up. But there we go, we were successful in our attack over there, so we have forced the brigade, the 1st Brigade of the 28th US Infantry Division to retreat, and that has opened up the road here. So now we have this position here, which is much tougher to fight. So we have to make a choice. Do we go for the forces down here, and then swing down here, or do we do this, and run into a big wall? We're going to go down here. Though, if we press T again, we can see here that we do have the river, so that's going to make things significantly harder. So now you can see here that we have 125 movement points remaining in total. Well, not points really, just 125. How it translates, I'll have to go into detail in the future. So I could have them move up, they'd have no movement value, but we secure that hex, so I'm going to do that. Okay. Obviously, they still could have been able to use those points to attack, but now well. So we have here the 276 Volksgrenadier Division. We have the 212th Volksgrenadier Division. So we're going to have them assigned there. We're going to have the Jägers again, though we're not going to have enough power here. So let's see, what can we do to make sure we succeed here? What can I bring to the battle? I could bring some extra forces over here. Or I could bring the 116th Panzer Division. Or I could bring the 2nd Panzer Division. We have elements of different forces around. We just need to make sure we use the best ones for the job. So we do have armoured. We'd probably be better off bringing a Panzer Division, as they'll have forces that are able to deal with armour, so then we're not going to be facing them. It's not going to be as tough, basically. So we'll bring down the 2nd Panzer Division. Good, they have enough points to conduct a full attack. So do these forces. Okay. So I can bring the 79th Volksgrenadier Division 2 to help out with the attack. Okay. So now we have the element of 2nd Panzer over here. So what I can do is get this back on. There we go. So with these Jägers, they have assigned to them the 11th Volksgrim Stug Battalion, Stug Brigade. So we have Stug 3Gs. What I want to do then is I want to see if I can give them something else that'll make them better able for the job. So I could give them some heavy panzers, some Hummels. I could give them some infantry, or I could give them some artillery. So we have Sturm infantry here, basically assault infantry. So we're going to give them some assault infantry. And we'll give the Hummels... Right, they don't have those, but we'll give them the 207th Pioneer Battalion. And we'll give them some heavy flak. There you go. As we can see here, the heavy flak is made up of 88s and some 20mm. We also have the Pioneers. So we have a couple of Pioneer squads in here, so they're armed with flamethrowers and anti-tank grenades. Obviously, they're going to be able to make it much easier for the Panzer Division to go forward. But yes, we'll give the Hummels to the Jägers. So we can take a look at the Hummels. So we have 13 Tigers in here. I don't know why they're known as Hummel, but basically, I don't know what Hummel means. I imagine it means something in German. So we have 13 Tiger tanks assigned to this Jäger division. That should help us out considerably. You can see here that their supply need, their fuel need has increased. Their ammunition need has increased. Okay. I think with these forces here, we can probably manage to pull this off. So you can see 18 combat value, 8 combat value. Obviously, it's going to be different when we get into the actual fight, so let's go for it. Right, so we have the 406th Volks Artillery Brigade and the 408th Volks Artillery Brigade assigned to. So you can see here that we force these units to retreat. We took relatively low casualties, not too many. We lost 16 guns, but you can see here we had 1,233 pieces of artillery assigned to this battle. That was in the actual battle itself. That's a considerable amount. Neither side had air support. If we had air support, that would have made a bigger difference too. You can see here that combat value and their combat value. So everything did make a difference. Artillery add another 10. Yes, okay. So they lost 48 armoured fighter vehicles, we lost 19. There we go. Now if I want to take a look at the actual battle itself, whoops, I can go ahead and press the right button. So we have battle sites over here. So we have the battle here. Let's go with details. So by clicking onto this, we can see the details of the battle, we can see exactly what's happened and how it happened and why it happened. So we can see here general info, units in battle, 20 in total, so that's everything, including brigades, divisions, support elements, that sort of thing. On map units was 7, support units was 13, ground headquarter 5. Okay, so ready, damaged, disrupted. Disrupted is a big thing. Basically, they're not going to fight very well. They're more likely to be damaged and destroyed. Ready are good to go. Damaged are obviously damaged. Average morale, average experience, average fatigue. Air missions, we had 0 on both sides. You can see here they had 913 elements ready, 27 damage, 0 disrupted. So they were fairly ready for the combat, but they were just outnumbered and outgunned. You can see here, ground element, destroyed, damaged, disrupted. So with the Allied, we destroyed 571 elements. So a considerable amount of our elements here were destroyed. They lost 45 in the retreat, though we lost 471 too. So 471, 616 in total. Damaged, 641, 647 in total. Disrupted, 1,876, 1,876, 4,899. There we go. Right, okay. So destroyed and damaged. So ground losses, we can see exactly what was lost. Right, okay, so total... So this is ground, air, and retreat. So what was lost in the retreat? So we lost 2 Panzer 2L Lynxes, we lost a Panzer G, we lost 6 Panzer 3Gs, we lost 2 Jagdpanzer 4s, a Hetzer. Did we lose any Tigers? We didn't lose any Tigers though, the Tigers remain triumphant. The Allies, they lost 8 Stuarts, a Sherman, M4A3 Sherman, a lot of Shermans basically. They lost a considerable amount of these, so the M18s. They didn't lose any Jumbos though, sadly, so they still have 4 Jumbos. We can see here what was lost in the ground combat. I'm trying to remember what this is. I think this is firepower. I can't quite remember, but basically you can see the exact combat and what happened during this. Yeah, there we go, weapon stats. Okay, there you go. So you can see the detail here, you can see why. Right, Tigers. Okay. Air losses 0-0, air combat 0. You can see even loadouts if you'd like. Okay, so there we go. So that's a explanation of battles. You can see all the details there. You can see what happened and why it happened and how it happened, which is always a good thing. So the road has been opened up here. We have the capability to move through, though I'd have to march over here due to this unit here. What we need to go over now is zone of controls. So basically, a division will project a zone of control. Brigades do not project zone of controls because they are too small. But basically, a division will have this force over here. So we must... Well, we have this force over here, but that's zone of control occupied anyway. But let's just go with, let's say this brigade, this division over here, sorry. This division will project a zone of control around it. Basically, if an enemy unit moves through that, that's going to slow them down. Basically, because there's low-level combat, they're having to move past an enemy combatant force. It's not good for them. So, when able to try to advance through unoccupied areas. So these areas are normally ours, but they're not secured yet. They will be secured next turn. But for the time being, they are ours. But just avoid trying to move next to enemy units. You won't always be able to do it. Vast majority of the time you won't be able to avoid it. But try if you can. Okay. So those Jägers can move up. So we'll do that. The Panzer Division has had its combat value reduced due to the fact it's expended a lot of ammunition, etc. But it can move. Have those Grenadiers move up there. And we'll have this force move up there in time. But let's see. So we have a decent amount of movement points available here. Now, I'd love to use the SS Panzers over here, but I don't want to send them too far. So instead what we'll do then is we'll grab the 116th Panzer Division. So we'll grab 116th. 116th can move up. These forces over here we're going to have in reserve. And I'm going to grab some more artillery. Though they can stay there for the moment. So these forces are in reserve. They should be able to participate. I'm going to have that headquarters move up. There we go. I do have even more panzers over here. We may need to commit them. We'll see. Right. So the 79th could commit a hasty attack. So we're going to have the 79th commit a hasty attack so you guys can see what it's like. As you can see here, that they were halted. There's very few casualties, and nothing much was gained. I could not do it again. So, what we're going to do then is we're going to open up the way forwards. So they don't have enough movement volume, movement points, sorry, to do anything, so we're going to go with a hasty attack. And again, they were halted. And they were halted by 5,000 men. And again. Yeah. Scouted. So you can see here that you want to go for plant attacks when possible, because they are by far the best. Righty. So now that's made things difficult. So what I can do then is I can use a planned attack. So move forward this artillery. Bear in mind, do not stack units deep behind your forces because you will not be able to move and you'll find it very difficult. This is the element of combat that you do need to bear in mind. So you're going to go for a planned attack. We'll have that headquarters move up. So planned attack. There we go. We captured a depot over here too. Right then, so you can see here that we lost a heavy amount of planes there. But we do have the capability to move up. So I'm going to move. Now, I don't have enough to go for a full attack, but I'll go for the hasty attack. And they hold. And you can see here that we took considerable casualties there for that. I mean, we are attacking in bad weather. So what we're going to do then is we're going to move down here. And we're going to attack again. And there we go. Now, see, I don't have the capability to move forward because I don't have anything that has that movement. No. Okay. So what we're going to have to do then is try to hold this open. But we're on the outskirts of Baston. There we go. So that is pretty much ground combat, really. Now, what we have to take into consideration as well is that these forces are moving away from depots, so they're going to be less... well, they're going to find it harder to be supplied. I mean, you can see here that these forces here have absolutely nothing in the way of actual support. Supply, sorry. So we're going to go over here. I'm going to select all of these planes, and I'm just going to try and get as much supply in there. We're going to lose a lot of planes here, potentially. You can see here we transported 21 tons, another 21 tons, 12 tons, 15. There we go. Okay. So you can see here they've got some ammunition, they've got some supply, fuel, some ammunition as well. They have more than what they had beforehand, so that's what you need to use air supply for, to get supply there and then. It's going to get there in lower numbers, but at least it'll bloody well get there. So, I think that's the vast majority of combat gone over, and a little bit into logistics. In the future, we'll go into this in a greater degree, as we'll explain production and etc. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope this has been somewhat informative. I apologise for it being a fairly lengthy episode. It's just trying to get things across in a manner that you guys can see and understand. And I'd like to show things as I explain them, so we can get through it properly. So, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoy One of the Worst, and I hope to see you again in the future. Goodbye for now, guys. Take it easy.